Depression can be a vicious cycle because it attacks the very thing with which we can fight back against it. And that is motivation. Because when we're depressed, we don't feel like doing anything. We don't feel like getting out of bed. And once we have no motivation, we don't have any motivation to do the very things that would bring us out of that state. And because we don't do those things, we get even more depressed. So it leads to this vicious cycle. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about 2 ways that we can break out of that cycle. That has also helped me to feel better. Now, the first way is by changing your perception. How you look at the world, how you interpret events, how you look at yourself, your thoughts, the stories that you tell yourself. And I think that this is one of the best ways to break the cycle. And the other way is by doing small actions. Doing something, getting that momentum, and also the importance of what you do first thing in the morning, which is actually like a great way to manage your motivation and have more motivation. And first, let's talk about perception. And before I get into that, let me tell you my story. Recently, I wasn't feeling that good. University started, and 3 days in a row, my schedule was filled. I had no time to do anything. I had no time to write these scripts, make these videos. When I went home, I only had time to eat, then I had to do something again, go somewhere. And there were some boring classes in the university that I didn't really care about. And I was also questioning my path. Because the goal right now is to go to university so that I can become a teacher. But really, the real reason that I want to become a teacher is to help people, to help these young kids, to teach them the things that they don't teach them in school. Teach them about health, the importance of sleep, and so much more, the mindsets and everything. That would actually change their life and bring them in a positive direction. And I was questioning this path, like, do I really want to do this? And then I started overgeneralizing, that I don't have time for anything, everything sucks, university sucks. And then I was like, hold up. I noticed these thoughts that were going through my mind. And then I thought to myself, why not use the things that I'm talking about to you in these videos? So then I questioned my thoughts. Okay, is what I'm thinking actually true? Could it be that I'm wrong? How can I be grateful for this? How can I be grateful that I didn't have time? And once I started questioning my thoughts, I realized that it's not that bad actually. But I believe these negative thoughts without questioning them. And I realized that it's not that bad, that I'm very grateful actually for where I am. I am grateful that I can study. I'm grateful that I have a house to live in. I'm grateful that I have a beautiful girlfriend. That it's not that bad. And the last 3 days, even though they were packed, there were also actually a lot of good things that happened in those 3 days. But my mind just ignored it. And that everything is okay. And whatever happens, happens. And that it's okay that I don't know. It's okay that I'm unsure on my path. And that's completely normal. And the moment I questioned these thoughts and changed my perspective, like in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, my moods changed instantly. Perspective is this powerful. Just by not believing my initial thoughts and questioning them. Just like that, I changed my perspective, my perception of things. And I changed my mood because of that. So as you can see, perception is a very powerful thing. It literally shapes how we see the world around us. But a very important thing that we got to realize is that they are not objectively true. Our perception of the world is our own subjective perception. It's not actually the way as it is. For example, one person might say that it's such a great thing that it's raining outside. Another person might be sad that it's raining outside. But the rain itself, it's neither good or bad. We put these labels on the event. But you see, the problem is that we said that perception is very powerful. But when we are depressed, our perception is literally distorted. We literally see the world in a different way because there's a lot of cognitive biases that come into play when we're depressed. And just being aware of these cognitive biases the different ways we see the world when we're depressed, that can help a lot to break the cycle. And now I want to talk about 3 of these cognitive biases that we have when we're depressed. The first is negative interpretation of ambiguous events. So basically, our minds like to fill in the blank and make shit up. So when something happens, something ambiguous, something that we don't know what really happened, our minds like to fill in the blank and fill it with what it thinks happened, and not actually with what happened. Because our mind, our thoughts, are basically all the time interpreting reality and putting it into words and thoughts and interpreting as what it thinks happened. And now, for example, you might hear in the middle of the night some kind of sound, and you start making all of this shit up that, oh, it might be a burglar, it might have been just a cat, or was I just dreaming, and was this in my dream? And your mind starts all thinking, what was this, what was this? It starts filling in the blank of what it thinks happened. But the problem is that when we're depressed, we are much more likely to fill in the blank with negative things. We're much more likely to interpret events as negative. For example, let's say that you're walking on the street and one of your friends walks past you and he didn't say hi to you, even though you waved at him and everything, he didn't say anything. And then you immediately start thinking, bro, what is this guy doing? Like, he's my friend, why isn't he saying hi? He's such a jerk. He must think that I'm a bad guy, or he must have some kind of resentment towards me, or I don't know. You start having these thoughts, these negative interpretations. All of these negative thoughts you start having, even though you don't actually know why he didn't say hi. Maybe he didn't even notice you. And you already have all this negative, or you already jumping to conclusions with all these negative thoughts. But the thing is that you just don't know. So this is the first cognitive bias, that our mind tends to interpret ambiguous events as negative and make up negative stuff about things when we're depressed, even though they might not even be true. And most of the time they are not true. Now, the second cognitive bias is selection bias towards the negative. Basically, when we're depressed, a lot of the times we're much more likely to just ignore the positive things and only focus on the negative side of things, and even look at neutral events as negative. For example, you might be able to relate to this. When someone reviews your work or gives you some feedback, you might say some good things about the things that you did and bad things about the things that you did, how you performed. And you see, you might relate that most of the time, we tend to focus on the bad stuff more than what we're doing good. You might even say, our boss or the teacher, that you're doing a great job, you're doing a fantastic job. And our minds, when we're depressed, just ignores that and only focuses on the negative side. That you didn't do this right, you didn't do this, and we're just dwelling over the negative. So this is selection bias towards the negative. It's like our minds cherry picking only the negative information and just completely ignoring the positive, even though it's there. Our minds, when we're depressed, tends to ignore the positive things, just ignore them. It's like we don't even see them and only focus on the small negative. And lots of the times, we might be just completely okay, everything might be fine, but our brain is just fixated on a small little negative thing that just happened and ignores the big picture and all the great things that is happening around us. We just ignore it. For example, the fact that we have electricity in our house, that we have running tap water. And so what a blessing that is. But we just forget this. We just ignore these positive things when we're depressed. Now, the third cognitive bias is overgeneralization. Now, you might have noticed that when someone's depressed or when you're depressed, we're much more likely to say things like, everything sucks, my life sucks, I suck, this sucks, everything is just bad, I'm never going to find love in my life. And this is overgeneralizing. It's these broad statements. Or for example, I spilled the milk today, so that means that this day is just ruined. Everything is ruined and I'm stupid because of that. Or I missed an exercise today, I missed my diet today, and then it's all ruined. There's no point in doing it anymore. Because as we said, we tend to ignore the positive when we're depressed and focus on the negative. And we also tend to see life in black and white. It's either perfect or it's awful. I'm either doing everything right or everything wrong. Life is either going perfectly right, everything is either going great, or either everything sucks. We see it in black and white and we overgeneralize things. So these are 3 cognitive biases that we tend to have when we're depressed. It's so crazy, it literally shifts the way that we see the world. You might have noticed that you can pick up the same cognitive biases in my story. I overgeneralized. I said that, university sucks, everything sucks, I don't have time for anything. I ignored the positive things in my life and focused only on the negative. But the thing is that when we're in these situations, it's very hard to notice them. So it's very important to become aware of these cognitive biases because our perception is at the root of the problem. Because our inputs are distorted. We don't see events and things as how they actually are because we distort them and we're looking at them through a negative lens. And we start making these assumptions that the world is objectively negative, it's objectively bad. And then we start drawing conclusions of the world and we start overgeneralizing that I hate my job, I'm awful at my job, I'll never be able to find love in my life, I'll be alone forever. And then if all of these areas in your life are going down, then you might make the assumption that I am the problem. And you start making negative assumption about yourself and looking at yourself in a negative way. And then from that, once you have a negative self-image, it all just starts going down. All the problems arise. But you see, everything started from having a bad input, from having a bad perception of the world, a distorted perception of the world. To change how we feel about things, to change our mood, we have to change first our perspective, how we look at the world, the stories that we tell ourselves. Now let's talk about how can you actually change your perception, how can you influence it. Here are a couple of tips. Don't believe everything that you think, because most of the time they are just not true. Because our thinking mind is always trying to interpret reality, put it into words, put it into thoughts and understand it. But you see, most of the time it's distorted. It's not perceiving reality as it actually is, but it's perceiving through a lens, through a filter. Makes up these stories as what it thinks happened, not what actually happened. So most of the times our thoughts about things are not true. It's only our own subjective perspective of that thing. And the great way to break out from this negative perspective is to question your thoughts. Question every single thought and ask yourself, could I be wrong? Is this actually bad? How can I be grateful for these? Are my thoughts actually true? Change your perspective. Literally look at that problem, at that situation from a different perspective. Change the story that you tell yourself. Literally tell it in a different way. And I can't stress this enough, this can actually help a lot. Just changing the way you tell the story to yourself. And the number one thing that can help here is journaling. Journaling about your thoughts, about your feelings. Because then you're actually putting some distance between you and your thoughts. And a great way of journaling, what you can do is, in one column, you can write down your initial thoughts, what you think about this problem, about these situations, the thoughts that you're having right now. Maybe, my life sucks, I'm never going to be able to find love in my life. Whatever thoughts that that's going through your mind right now, write them down in one column. And next to it, write down what would the best version of yourself think of these thoughts. What would he say of these thoughts? Or maybe someone that you look up to. Or maybe like the 80-year-old version of yourself, that 80-year-old wise version of yourself. What would he think of these thoughts, these problems that you're having right now? And just by telling the same thing in a different way, changing your perspective about it, it can actually help a lot. Now, another thing that can help is to remove the I from your thoughts and the stories that you're telling yourself. Because when we're depressed, we always think that it's about me, it's all about me. In the example where the guy walked past you, you always think about me, he doesn't like me, why did he say hi to me? But once you shift your attention from inwards to going outwards, that it's not all about you, you might start thinking, maybe he just didn't notice me. Maybe he also had a bad day. So shift your attention and stop thinking it's all about me. Change your perspective. And now here's a great perception exercise that can actually help a lot and makes you realize that most of our perceptions are coming from inside and most of them are just not true. So you can take any object, you can do this right now, so you can take any object or event or problem that you have in your life and think about what are the attributes of this thing that are actually coming from it. And what are the attributes that I am putting on that thing? Now let me explain. For example, let's say I take this water bottle. What are the attributes that are actually in this water bottle? I might say that, okay, it's pretty cold, it's pretty hard, it makes this nice sound. And what are the attributes that I am putting on it? Maybe it's that I really like this bottle, or I hate this bottle, or that I should buy a new bottle because it's dented here on the bottom. But you see, I'm putting all of these labels on this bottle. Or another example, you can take your pet, a dog for example. What are the attributes that are actually in that dog? Well, you might say that it has this nice fur, or the texture of his nose, his temperature. But when you say that he's very cute, now the cuteness is not actually in the dog, but you're putting that label on that dog. Another person might say that it's ugly. So you see, 99% of our perception and of how we feel about things, what we think about things, comes from inside. The labels that we put on things, how we categorize things, how we interpret things. Our mind just add on a bunch of labels, a bunch of attributes that are just not true. And that only exist in our thoughts. That it's bad, it's awful, that this is unforgivable, oh that I really want this, I don't want this. It's all putting on labels onto things that are most of the time not even true. And this can be very powerful to realize that our perception literally shapes our world around us and how we feel about our life and ourselves. Because our internal state, how we feel about ourselves, all depends on our perceptions, how we see the world. Are we content? Are we grateful for what we have? Are we always striving for more and more and more and more? So remember that perception is very powerful. Perception is all, and that you can change it. You have that power to change your perception, start a story in a different way. Now the other thing that I wanted to talk about, the other way of breaking this cycle, is by doing small actions. Whatever small actions, the smallest actions. Because you see, when we're depressed, we have no motivation to do anything. And then we don't have any motivation to do the things that would get us out of that state. And one way to break this cycle is by doing something small. The smallest action that you can think of that will bring you forward. For example, getting your clothes on, making your bed, or taking care of yourself, brushing your teeth, washing your face, whatever small action that you can think of. Just opening the homework that you have and writing one sentence. That's it. Doing one push-up. The smallest actions that you can think of that will bring you forward. The point is to do something, and you can make it as small as you want to. Just do something. Something that will bring you forward, that will make you feel better about yourself. However small it could be. Because the point is to get that momentum going. Because once you do this little small thing, then you're more likely to do this slightly bigger thing, and then this slightly bigger thing, slightly bigger thing. And you'll get this snowballing effect, you'll get this momentum going, and then you have more motivation to do stuff. And another great thing that can help is doing something healthy that gets you out of that mood. Maybe it's just going outside, taking a walk even for 5 minutes. Maybe it's calling someone, talking to someone. Maybe it's doing some breath work, which can actually help a lot. Or just taking a couple of deep breaths. Taking some deep breaths and just being in this moment. You know, looking at some flowers or listening to some calming music. Doing some small actions that we said. Getting a little ahead in the things that you got to do. Or doing some exercise. Taking a short 5-minute, 2-minute walk. Doing 5 push-ups, something small that gets you out of that mood. Now you might remember that I said in the beginning that it really matters what you do in the morning, and it really affects your motivation. Because when you wake up, you can think of it that you have a full tank of dopamine. And dopamine, if you don't know, it's basically your motivation. It's a chemical in your brain that makes you motivated to do stuff. And to do anything, you need dopamine to do anything. And if you do first thing in the morning, something that takes away a lot of dopamine, that is a high level dopamine activity, maybe it's scrolling on your phone, playing video games or whatever, then it will squeeze out all of your dopamine and you will have no dopamine left after that. And this will mean, if you have no dopamine left, that you won't have any motivation to do anything. And this is why it's so important that in the morning you do something productive, you do something hard, something that you don't really feel like doing, maybe exercising, maybe working on something, whatever. Make sure that it's not this very high level dopamine activity. Because for example, imagine if you in the morning play video games for 4 hours. Will you be motivated after that to do anything? And now imagine if for the first 4 hours of the day you did productive things, you worked out, you worked on something. After that, you have much more motivation to do something. And you have much more motivation even to play video games. The point is that when you wake up, do something productive. Don't do these high level dopamine activities, scrolling on your phone or playing video games. Because it will squeeze your dopamine out in the morning. It will empty the tank. And then you won't have any motivation to do anything at all. Now let's do a quick recap. What can you actually take away from this video? What can you do? When you are feeling depressed or sad, change your perspective. Question your thoughts, journal, pick out a piece of paper and a pen, write down your thoughts and really question everything. Ask yourself, how can I be grateful for this? Is this actually that bad? What are the positive things that I'm missing out on? Be aware of the 3 cognitive biases that we talked about. That were, let me just go back to that, where were they? That are negative interpretation of ambiguous events, selection bias towards the negative, and overgeneralizing. Be aware of these cognitive biases. Question your thoughts. And then do the smallest actions that you can think of that will bring you forward. Do some healthy actions that will elevate your mood. And don't forget the importance of what you do first thing in the morning. Do something hard, do something productive that will bring you forward and not some high level dopamine actions like scrolling on your phone or playing video games. And now, of course, these techniques are all nice, they're all good. But if you don't have the basics right, and by the basics I mean sleep, exercise, social connections, sunlight, and diet. If you don't have these in check, if you don't have these in order, then most likely the things that I taught to you about in this video, they won't matter. Because these are the 5 essentials: sleep, exercise, diet, social connections, sunlight. These are the essentials, and if you're interested, I won't talk about how to get them right. I made a whole video about how to get the basics right. I leave a link to it in the description. The point is that it's very important to get them right. Now I hope that I was able to give you something valuable with this video. I hope that it helped. I hope that you learned something new, and thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're interested, if you have any questions, I do free one-on-one calls. You can send me an email and we'll contact each other. We'll arrange a video call and you can ask me anything that you want. So email in the description if you're interested. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. All the love towards you. Have a great day and goodbye.